want to pick up on a discussion from the last few weeks. Over the last few weeks, we've been dealing with stewardship. Matter of fact, starting on Wednesday night, everybody say Wednesday night. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. There's a Salem church revival at Mount Vernon. And it's based off stewardship. All of us are getting together. And so members of the Salem, yes, we need to be there, mandatory. And we ask every member for $25 for that week. I shared with you over the last few weeks that so often in life, when it comes to the church, no one likes to discuss money. However, you know and I know that it takes money to operate. Every month, wherever you live, whether you rent or own, you pay somebody a mortgage or rent. You pay lights.
Yes.
You pay gas.
Yes.
You pay water. It is only when it comes to the church do we think that they give that stuff to the church for free. And so what winds up happening, many preachers, especially me in particular, sometimes we shy away from teaching what God says about money, because when we start talking about money, everybody thinks we try to trick y'all out of something. And so consequently, what I've learned over 22 years as pastor, whatever you don't talk about, people will never respond to what you don't discuss. And so what we've been doing for the last week is going over biblical principles that God has laid out in His Word on what God has to say about money. Matter of fact, I shared with you on last week that Jesus talked more about money than He did about faith. He talked more about money than He did about healing. And from Genesis to Revelation, you'll see all types of passages that's talking about money in the Bible. Matter of fact, 3 John 2 says, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospers. And I shared with you that the desire for God is that you would prosper at the same level of your intellectual capacity. And so consequently, it is your job and your responsibility to refine and expand your intellect. And sometimes one of the reasons why your money is low is because your intellect is low, or you don't use your intellect to do what God told you to do. I shared several passages with you that many times, if you're going to be on the pathway to poverty, first off, the Bible teaches us to be stingy. The Bible says if you want to be poverty-stricken, be stingy. But then the Bible also says you can't treat folk wrong and prosper. So He has a list of the major things He has in there. He says if you really want to be poor, be lazy. Don't work. Don't try to spell work. Don't try to better yourself. The text teaches us that you will in fact be poor. Now, on last week, out of Psalm 116, right around verse 12, he says, What shall I render or give back to the Lord for everything that He's done for me? And so one of the questions that I posed to you on last week was, when you look at everything that God has done for you, what in the world could you possibly give Him back based on everything He's done for you? Now, if you notice, not one time over these last few weeks have I even discussed tithing with you. And the reason why I haven't discussed it is because it's intentional, because many of you don't understand why tithing was before the law, and tithing was during the law, and tithing was after the law. Tithing is a principle that was laid out before the law ever came to be. You know, tithe is a tenth of everything that you own. There's so many crazy erroneous teachings about tithing. I decided not to deal with it yet, because I wanted to show you a clear biblical Listen, turn your Bibles to Psalms chapter number 1. On your way to Psalms chapter 1, I want you to stop very quickly to the right of Psalms 1. And I want to show you something. In Ecclesiastes chapter number 10. Ecclesiastes chapter number 10. Ecclesiastes is to the right of Psalms. Those of you who are using your cell phone or Bible application, I can't hit the pages. If you holler, got it, I'm good. You got it, y'all need any weights to hold. All right, Ecclesiastes, I have to give you the verse here. Chapter 10, verse. See, we'll argue about so much. And much, there's things in the Bible that's in that, but if you don't notice in there, you mess up. Like people tell you, but money is the root of all evil. That is not what the text says. The text says the lovers of money is the root to all evil. If you think God is against you having money, then leave your money there. If you just don't want it. God is not against you having things, but He's always going against things having you. Ecclesiastes chapter number 10. Are you with me? Verse number 19. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 19. Are you with me? A feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but I can hear you talk to me. What does it say? Money answereth everything. And let me ask you a question. Out of all the issues and the problems that you and I may have right now, how many of y'all believe that a little bit more money will help you deal with it a little easier? I see some hands going real quick. But I want to keep reading in chapter number 11 because that's the things there that you need to read as well. It says, cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. See, you want God to increase what you have, but you stingy. Say that. When the text says, cast thy bread on the waters, He's saying basically, sow your seed. And when you cast it upon the waters, God will bring it back. See, you think what you have is based off of your ability. And so rather than you getting your mindset on the wavelength of God, you looking to see yourself as the source, and you're not. Let's keep reading. He says, give a portion to what? 7, and also to 8. Why? For thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. The suggestion of the text is this. One of the reasons why you want to cast your bread on the waters when it comes back to you, and He said, give to 7, maybe to 8, because one of the 7 or one of the 8 may be the very one that helped you through your financial crisis when you go through. Because everybody in here, you will have go through this and we'll let you know. Because the bottom line, y'all, the principles of God is not going to change because you and I don't agree with it. Do you hear me?